spoke to masses. And then we have Jesus speaking to, let's just say, a smaller group of people and teaching them. It's a little bit more intimate, but it's not as intimate as you want to get. Then you have Jesus sending out the 70. That's a little closer, right? And as you're getting closer, and you get intimate. And then you have Jesus with the 12, and that's an intimate leadership. And there are different levels of it that take place. It's hard, especially the bigger the congregation gets. It's tougher to have that intimate relationship with the congregation that you want to have as a leader when it becomes massive, when it gets big. And that's why some people like smaller churches than they do really big churches, because they say, well, the smaller churches are more intimate. There's more communication. There's more contact. It's more of a family where once it gets big, it kind of loses that. It becomes about, ministry only. And so it's tougher when you get big. And so whether you're small or whether you're big, you still want to have the best you can to try to keep that intimacy. And one of the ways to do that is to have people who are leading in the shadows. Okay? That's how you keep the congregation going. People who are leading in the shadows. So I want to use Aaron as a backdrop because I think Aaron is a great example of a leader in the shadows. So here's what we know in Exodus chapter 4. I need somebody to help me read that. Brother Whitfield, save my voice for this. Thank you, brother. We're just going to read Exodus chapter 4, 10 through 15. And we're just dealing with, this is about Moses and Aaron. And you know that Aaron is going to be in the shadow of Moses, but we just want to point something out about Aaron because Aaron still was a leader in his own right. So Exodus chapter 4, verses 10 through 15.
And Moses said unto the Lord, O my God, O my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither heretofore, nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant, but I am slow of speech and of a slow tongue. And the Lord said unto him, Who have made man's mouth, or who maketh the dumb or deaf, or the seeing or the blind? Have not I the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be with thy mouth, and teach thee what thou shalt say. And he said, O my Lord, send, I pray thee, by the hand of him whom thou wilt send. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses, and he said, Is not Aaron the Levite thy brother? I know that he can speak well. And also, behold, he cometh forth to meet thee. And when he seeth thee, he will be glad in his heart. And thou shalt speak unto him, and put words in his mouth, and I will be with thy mouth, and with his mouth, and will teach you what ye shall do.
Thank you. So we have Moses. God has approached Moses at the burning bush, and Moses gives the excuse that he is not eloquent, neither hitherto nor since that has spoken unto thy servant, but I am slow of speech and slow of tongue. And so, this could be, I never seen anywhere in the Bible where Moses couldn't speak, or that doesn't come up until this. It's the only time you really hear it. And it could have been, Moses was in the desert, 40 years before God called him. But what the language that he learned was Egyptian. So he could have been saying, I'm not good at speaking the Egyptian language. That's one of the things he could have said. I'm slow. I don't know the language like I used to know it. Because you remember, he's raised up in Egypt. And so, and then the Lord, told him about that, I'm going to be your mouth. And we know that God Moses is making an excuse about going to do God's work, and then he says, I got somebody that's going to help you. And Aaron is his brother. Okay? Aaron is his brother. So we know that God talked to Aaron. We're going to see that anyway. But God, the Lord knows that Aaron is on his way, and they're going to meet at a certain place as we're going to see. But so God takes away excuses and says, you're going to have the help that you need. Okay? I'm jumping the gun on Aaron because I want to point this part out. This is just in Numbers 20 and 22 to 29, where the children of Israel, the whole congregation, journeyed from Kadesh and came unto Mount Hor. And the Lord spoke unto Moses and Aaron in the Mount Hor. He spoke unto Moses and Aaron by the coast of the land of Edom, saying, Aaron shall be gathered unto his people, for he shall not enter into the land. This is at the end, which I have given unto the children of Israel, because ye rebelled against my word at the waters of Meribah. He's talking about Aaron when as we're going to see, with the one thing we connect with Aaron. What's one of the things you connect with Aaron? Does anybody connect with Aaron? Do you connect anything with Aaron? Okay. One of the things that you connect with Aaron is he's the one that built the calf, the golden calf, when Moses went on the mountain. Okay. So we always point to that part of Aaron's life and his leadership part where he had messed up. Okay. But here God says, all right, this is at the end, and the children of Israel are getting ready to go into the promised land. And guess who's not going? Moses is not going, and Aaron is not going. Mm-hmm. Okay. So this is that time. So take Aaron and Eleazar his son and bring them up on the Mount Hor, and strip Aaron of his garments and put them upon Eleazar his son. And Aaron shall be gathered unto his people and shall die there. Okay? And Moses did as the Lord commanded him, and they went up in Mount Hor and in the sight of all the congregation. And Moses stripped Aaron of his garments and put them on Eleazar his son, who's going to carry on the priesthood. And Aaron died there in the top of the mount. And Moses and Eleazar came down from the mount. And when all the congregation saw that Aaron was dead, they mourned for Aaron 30 days, even all the house of Israel. So that means that there was a connection with Aaron. Mm-hmm. Okay. These are all the years as Moses was leading. This is after the plagues, after he led them out of Egypt. They're in the desert 40 years. And then they finally going to go into the promised land, and people are mourning for Aaron. Goes up on the mountain, and he dies up there because he don't come down with Moses and Eleazar. Mm-hmm. Okay. Only his son comes down, and Moses comes down. He died up on the mountain. He went up on the mountain, and God took his life right there after he took him off, took the garments off and put them on his son so that they can continue to go in. But this shows that the congregation had a relationship with Aaron. Mm-hmm. Okay? This is what we're pointing out. That was an intimate relationship. And we see that Aaron was a big part of Moses' success. Because when God called him, what we just read, Moses was saying, I didn't want to go. And then Aaron is the one that helped him, give him the ability and the security to help him go. Okay. Even though God was sending them, God said, I'm going to be with you. He still needed somebody. And God just, he was angry with Moses. But at the same time, a lot of times when you see God's anger, you also see his grace and mercy. Amen. He gets angry at Moses, but then he sends him help. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? So even in God's anger, there's grace and mercy, because God gets upset. He don't get upset like we do. When we get upset, we don't think straight. Mm-hmm. Like when we get angry and wrath comes in on, we get mad, we can't make decisions. We make bad decisions when we get mad. We lose our feelings, take control. But God, in his anger, there's mercy. When Adam sinned, there was mercy. Okay? So even in God's anger, he shows grace and mercy. So here, there's a relationship between Aaron and the people, and he's not the main leader, but they have a relationship with him. So that's important. Okay? This is leadership theories. And these are just, some man theories. This is the evolution of leadership theory. You got the great man theory. I'm going to mention that in a few minutes. That started back there. You have trait theory, means these are different styles of leadership. That means that a person, this person is born a leader. So the question is men, are we born leaders or are we made leaders? So this theory says, well, men are leaders because of the traits that they have, and those are the things that make them leaders, and they're leaders within themselves. So they concentrate on the abundance of gifts. This one concentrate on doing. So this leadership is run by people working hard, behavior, right? You got to do. Just the behavior theory. Depending on what they do, this is how leadership goes about. Just follow what I do. This one, contingency and situational theories. This is different styles of leadership, meaning that there's times when you need to be hard. There's times when you need to be relational. There's times when you need to be distant. There's times when you need to be. So these are all these different kind of leadership styles. This is all this is. Servant, charismatic, and transactional theories. This is about leading by rewarding people and acknowledging people. Like, you bring people up. We want to, give an award to all the teachers for this month. We want to give an award to all of those who worked on this particular project this month. We want to give an award to those who worked on the outreach community. We want to give an award to, and so you just keep rewarding and acknowledging people, and that gets people, motivates people to keep doing stuff and sort of lead, okay? And then you have the latest style, which they call strict values, integrated leadership, management, adaptive leadership. And this has to do with, this is more of a rigidness. You lead by values, okay? So if that they will incorporate values in people, and that way the people almost can self-lead themselves by incorporating these values. This is another way of leading, right? So I just put this up here just to show you different ones. This one, the great man theory, just to show you what this is, saying that leaders are born. It says leaders are born and not made. Great leaders will arise when there is a great need. These theories often portray great leaders as heroic, mythic, and destined to rise to the leadership when needed. The term great man was used because at the time leadership was thought of primarily as a male quality, especially in terms of military leadership. So that means almost like the Germans thought. The Germans thought they pick out the best people, the intelligent people, people with confidence, sociability, and charisma. And if you didn't have them, then you were at the bottom of the barrel. Okay? They would pick out people based on traits and say these people were better than everyone else. That's how they would pick out leaders. Oh, that's a leader because that person is intelligent. That person has this. The person has, is able to do this. And so this what makes that person a great leader. So because they have born with these leadership skills, they are above anybody else. Okay, they're better than anyone else. So this is about leaders are born. They're not made. So that's what we want to look into. Now, we're talking about shadows of leadership because we're talking about those who, as I pointed out earlier, we're not just talking about those in front, okay? We're talking about there are other leaders too. So the question is, leaders are born or are they made, okay? So this is another screen, nature versus nurture. That's the debate. Born versus made, right? Nature is genetics. Nurture is environment. Upbringing and life experiences determine our behavior. In nature, our genetics determine our behavior. Our personality traits and abilities are in our nature. So that's why you got this is like a gene. So here, this determines leadership. Here, the environment determines leadership. Like you can be made into a leader. Tell me what you all think. Y'all, I ain't gonna just tell me what y'all think. Because one of them, both of them can't be true.
I disagree that both of them can't be true, simply because when you come out as a baby, I believe that you come out as a blank slate, but you're blessed with certain gifts and talents.
Mm-hmm.
So you call that nature, you call it a blessing from the Lord for certain ways that you are a natural born leader. And there's also things that you can be taught. Now, when you put both together, you get a heck of a leader, don't you?
So what gene makes a person a leader?
I don't know.
Well, you just said they both true.
Well, as far as when you say natural, I don't know anything about genes. I'm not a biologist. I don't understand that part of it. But some people are naturally, would we all agree that some people are naturally gifted towards certain things?
Yeah.
So is the gift nature, is the gift God?
So if,
You know, I don't even want to get into that. I can't split the hair there.
okay.
I'm sitting here to help for you to help me.
Sister Sassa?
Yeah, I believe that there's both, that you can be born a natural leader and that you can also be nurtured into becoming a good leader.
So can you be born without being nurtured? Brother Tillery.
I'm leaning towards what Sister Seth said. I think, why does it have to be one or the other? I can't name them right now, but we've known of people who have been able to do things, just do them completely well without, and they would never, like, they've got kids who are, what they call them prodigies, who all they have to do is hear a song, or sometimes they can just compose a song without ever having been trained. So we know there are people, we even call them geniuses sometimes, we call them whatever. But there are people with ability that seem not to have been trained to do this, and they are able to do them just like that. I believe there are people who have become leaders who were not trained to be leaders. Matter of fact, we've had leaders who said, this wasn't even the direction I was heading in. I was heading into something else. And then they just showed the traits that, and they might have learned them subconsciously, whatever, but I think it can be a combination of both. Yes, I think we still need to be nurtured as children. As you're growing up, you need to know what leadership looks like. But you've got kids in the schoolyard who become leaders to other kids, not knowing that they become leaders, but kids just naturally follow them because they come up with these ideas or whatever. So I don't know. I think there's a way that it's a little bit of both. I think it's from mine.
Anybody
I
else?
think you gotta have something in you in order to be nurtured as a leader. You know what I mean? I think you gotta already have something there.
Okay. Brother Whitfield.
I believe that individuals are born that way based upon God taking charge on the forming in its totality. I don't believe it's just a physical form. I believe it's all that what makes up that individual. God forms them, and then later on, that person is molded into being a better or a terrible leader. Regardless, he's going to be a leader. I believe everybody is born with leadership qualities, but it determines what they're being taught on what type of leader they're going to be. Either a bad leader or a good leader.
Anybody else? Brother Sasser? Because this is a big debate. Right? So I threw it out there and said what I said because I wanted to get it stirred up, But it's a thought, person. Go ahead, what you was going to say? I'm not going to take away what you were going to say.
I was just going to say that, the Lord thoroughly furnishes us with everything. And so even if you're thoroughly furnished, there's still some due diligence, some nurture that's involved in it. I don't see how you could ever separate the two, because you know what happens when you do separate the two. You get, sometimes you get a little bit of chaos.
All right. How can we lead not being the mainly in charge? We're going to keep this up there. We're going to keep this going.
Here's your question. We're gonna throw this in your ball. You've been a leader pretty much all your adult life. Who taught you to be a leader? I ain't talking about just in the church. No matter what, how you look at it, you were a leader. So is
My-
it something that
my
just
answer
came
is-
to you?
My answer is that somebody taught me.
Somebody taught you. Okay.
I want to see you become a leader without being taught. Then I can believe that genetics makes you a leader. That's my answer.
Okay.
I want to see that. I want to see a person that has genetics that's never been taught become a leader. Because then genetics makes him a leader. So we'll say, well, that person is a leader, but there's people who have influenced people who, like you said, Brother Sasser, well, I don't know how the genes split, right? We don't know. Well, the person is really not a leader, but because of God, they become. So your idea of a leader comes into question is, what do you think a leader is? Is it the person up front? Not all the time. You see what I'm saying? A leader is not the person always up. There are people who are leading because they have been developed into a leader. Okay? And you say, well, they had the genetics. And then you say, well, okay. So what genetics makes a person a leader? Then that would be my next question. Oh, he had the leadership gene. What's the leadership gene? I could have, it depends on how people are. Well, let's go through. What we're going to see. I believe that people have the qualities. I do believe that. There are qualities. But the qualities still have to be nurtured, right? No matter what you're born with or with, right? Whether that's the leadership gene. I don't know. There are people who have qualities to be leaders who aren't leaders.
Right.
So how did that happen? So do they have the leadership gene? Is it the gene that makes them a leader, or is it the nurturing that makes them a leader? So if you say the question, the debate was, leaders are born. They ain't made. They're not made. That's the debate, nature versus nurture. Nature means they're born with everything. Nurture means they're taught through society, through interaction, through intimacy, through relationships. They are taught how to be a leader, because in order to taught how to be a leader, you have to understand relationship.
Real quick, I'm gonna draw a parallel here real quick.
Okay.
So, let's use alcoholism. We do know that that gene can be passed down.
That's correct.
So that's a gene that's passed down. So you may not ever have a problem with it, but if you do, you might have more of a propensity
Mm-hmm.
to
Be addicted.
Yeah. So if we lose that parallel, okay, so somebody passes you the leadership gene, but you don't ever partake of it. But you know what I'm saying? And that's why I'm kind of confused, because I'm like, that's we know that there's genes out there. We know that they're finding out more
Right.
stuff every single year that goes by. So that's just an example that so it's just a more possibility that if you do go off into this, it can take hold. Because if that's true, then on the nature side, that can support that argument.
And there are people who believe that if they get what is it, some people want certain genes passed on to their embryos because they believe that if they get, say if I was a genius and they got my DNA or whatever, and they placed it in an embryo, that person would develop then those things that I had.
Well, you keep,
So
and all of y'all,
develop babies.
but you know what y'all keep saying?
That is passed.
Develop.
Okay.
Everything y'all said has to do with develop. If you born a leader, you don't need development.
But suppose I was born,
But we all
and then you
develop.
use my genes.
Well, that's the point,
That's the point.
All right. Okay.
right? That's the point.
Point received.
This person is born a leader. So if the person is born a leader and the person is not nurtured, will the person become a leader if they're born that way? So it still leads to what? Nurturing. Whether it still leads, you said, we don't know if they had the gene or not. It still leads to nurturing. You're not born reading. You got a reading gene, so now you can read. You got to be taught how to read. Right? So, great debate, though. Interesting, because, you feel as though, that we have this, man always has a view of what a leader should look like. And so the people chose Saul because this is what a leader should look like. And Samuel looked at Jesse's sons and said, I know one of these are the leader. And we always have a vision of what that's a leader. This is what a leader should look like. And then you find out that, the leader is someone that is outgoing and just, sort of extroverted, and he has to be out there. And so introverts can't be a leader. That's not true either. You see what I'm saying? So we have a view, and then here comes David. Someone that we overlook. And then Jesus chooses 12. All of them had the leadership gene. All of them, were they timid, or were they, that's what we start getting into. You got another question, brother?
Just got a quick statement.
And then-
The irony of this is, what you're talking about is Hitler himself. Hitler said that the leader, the master race, should look totally different than what he looked. Hitler wasn't 6 foot, blonde hair, blue eye, and all that stuff. So he promoted those as the master race,
Mhm.
who could lead. But he was complete, and everybody followed him. They followed this little short, dark haired, funny mustache dude. So, that's man's perception.
Right.
This is what, you tell me this is what it's supposed to look like, but you my leader and I'm following you.
Right.
But you said this is what it's supposed to, it's totally different than what you are, so I guess it's man's perception of what a leader is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to come down on the side of nurture simply because our past, like when we look at society, the gene and all of that, that's a slippery slope because man always takes something and makes it something else. So like being an African American man in America, I don't want anybody to say, oh, you got the violent gene. So y'all, too. I'm not even gonna say that. You are a product of your environment. You come out as a child, you come out as a clean slate, and you begin to learn. Yeah, you might have certain, might be better at other things and not so
Mhm.
other things. That's just human. That's just human nature.
Right. Right.
But I gotta come down the side of nurture because I believe you can be indoctrinated into becoming whatever.
True.
And I
Mm-hmm.
I think you are thoroughly furnished from the womb. And then God, and you can be nurtured, raised up. I have to go with that. Everything in me, my belief in God, my values and stuff, is stay away from that other part because we will screw it up.
Right. So the shadows of leadership have to do with those who are leading, who are not in the front, or ones we bypass as being leaders. So let's look at Exodus 17, 10 through 15. So Joshua did, I'll call you done when I want you to read. So Joshua did as Moses had said unto him. Y'all remember this, they were on the mountain fighting and fought with Amalek, and Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill, and it came to pass when Moses held up his hand that Israel prevailed, and when he let it down, his hand, Amalek prevailed, but Moses' hands were heavy, and they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat thereon, and Aaron and Hur stayed up his hands, the one on the one side and on the other side, and his hands were steadied until the going down of the sun. And Joshua discomfited Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. And the Lord said unto Moses, write this for memorial, put it in the book, rehearse it in the ears of Joshua, for I will utterly put out the remembrance of Amalek from under the heaven. And Moses built an altar and called the name Jehovah Nissi. The Lord is my banner. That's interesting because you have who won the battle? Did Moses win it? Did Aaron win it? And Hur that was holding up his hands, or did Joshua?
God provided them with help.
You see what I'm saying? So the leader needed his hands
Held up.
lifted up, and they held his hands up there the whole time. Who came up with that idea? It wasn't the leader. It was Aaron and Hur. Well, why ain't the leader come up with it? He got the gene. I'm just messing with you. No, I'm just messing with you. No, I'm just playing, really.
Moses, I guess, understanding or being the type of leader that he was, understanding that he needed that support or that help, from Aaron and Hur.
That's right.
For lifting him up
That's right.
and not feeling intimidated or threatened or any of that.
That's right. What was another instant that Moses needed help? Yep. Sister Wilkie, they can't hear you. Get that to Sister Wilkie. Get the mic to Sister Wilkie. She got that soft voice, you know what I mean?
When he was judging all the cases, and his father-in-law said it's going to kill you unless you appoint someone to help you to decide the cases. So he decided the big ones, and then he had 70, did he appoint 70 elders, I think, to decide the smaller cases.
Right. Moses was leading from, where did he get his leadership training from? Egypt. Because Pharaoh, everyone came to who? Just Pharaoh. So Moses is judging all the cases, and Jethro, his father-in-law, said, what are you doing? This is terrible leadership. But don't you have the gene? Aren't you the leader? Yes, he is. But even with that, let's just say, bro, he has it. It still has to be what? You can't do it by just with genes. So Jethro said, man, listen, not only are you doing that, and another thing Jethro did for him, he forgot about his family. Jethro came and brought him his wife. He said, hey, yo, man, here go your family. He was so involved in ministry that he forgot his family. So you got to lead in the home too. So even though you may have, let's just say, for the sake of argument, this gift of leading, because I believe that Gifts, people have gifts, even the gift has to be nurtured. You can't just do it by itself. So if you can't just do it by itself, then you can't be born a leader then. Because if you're born a leader, you don't need nurturing. You got what I'm saying? Right? So I played with you a little bit in the beginning. You do, you know, but they were nurtured. So Jefferson, this is, you gotta, you know, so you had to point out some things because you make mistakes, right? Adam, first leader. Listen to his wife when he was supposed to listen to God. Who took the lead? His wife. She had the gene, this guy. So, there's levels of leading. Remember I told you, right? So we're talking about leadership, and that's why, that's the reason I just chose this one, because this is the shadows of leadership, because it's not one person, right? And you guys, I believe the reason it's still standing is because we have a lot of leaders in here. Male and female. We have a lot of leaders in this congregation. That's why it's still here. And we're able to lead in the shadows, which is very important, because that's what I was talking about when we were talking about in the beginning, how that there are leaders within leaders within leaders, and those are the ones that keep the congregation going in relationships with people. So you have the relational leadership. You got this leadership, the person that's always up here is the mass leaders, but then there's people in the crowd that help lead. Then that breaks down even in the smaller groups. Okay? That you can lead in smaller groups. That's what Jesus did. He led in masses. He showed all levels. Big crowd, come down to maybe 500, come down to maybe 70, then come down to 12, then come down to 2. Peter and James, or Peter and John, take up to the mount. Like, that's intimate. He took 2 up. Why ain't take the 12? Because there's some things that he shared that he wanted them to see that he didn't really want the other ones to come there. That's levels of leadership, but it always involves relationship. Okay? The best leaders have relationship. And that's why I put the chart up there about the different kind of theories and behavior, the type of leaderships that businesses have, employers have, churches, people take on these type of leaderships, right? They got different types. And this is important when it comes to understand. Now, these are all theories. These are theories that people have. So, but anyway, some people believe that just reward. That's the best way to lead. It's just to reward people. We keep rewarding them, So we went over that. Anyway. Yes.
We went over it, but I see very plainly that there's something to glean from all of them.
Mm-hmm.
In the process of teaching, in the process of nurturing, like the leading by example, the reward, it all encompasses
Yeah.
what a leader, how you would train a leader up to be.
Yeah. But most of those theories just have tried to isolate it that this is the way.
Right, and that's man trying.
Right.
That's what.
The great man theory, right? This is the way, right? These attributes, you make this person a leader. And that's why we're having so much trouble when people with the presidency.
Exactly.
Because if a person is good at something, do you take into account behavior, or do you take into account skill set? Because what's going to happen? You run into a problem. See, people say, well, as long as they get the job done. Then other people say, well, behavior matters. That's what you see in football with Antonio Brown, who is a football player who is accused of sexual assault. But he's so good at his job of playing football, they're trying to overlook the behavioral issues. Because he's one of the best receivers, if not the best, in the NFL. So their goal is winning, not social work. Right? Their goal is winning. So we know he has a sexual assault, so they'd rather overlook character for skill set because they want a certain job done. And don't realize that behavior will put a wrench in the mechanics of leadership.
Man, I piggyback off of that.
You can ride come on. Because this seems to be one of your best topics here. This.
And when I say we, I mean just people in general.
Dang, we 11 o'clock.
Well, because you're good in this lane, you make the assumption that you'll be good in all the other lanes. So if you're like, what's the brain surgeon from Baltimore? Because he's excellent at that. Oh, we think he can run the housing administration because he has the, and that's a mistake.
Yes.
Because we assume, because you're good in this lane,
Mhm.
you're good in all these other lanes.
He's the one putting them.
And that's not, because he hadn't been nurtured or taught or understanding over there in that lane when it comes to housing and all that stuff. He doesn't know.
Right, right.
So, but that gets pushed on us
That's true.
as a way of thinking, and that's just it's totally incorrect.
That's true. With the football player, I mean, they know his behavior. That's what I'm saying.
But because of money and
Because of they want to win, they were overlooked at. And, you could be interviewing somebody for a particular job, a leadership job. And they have the skill set. You can tell they have the skill set. And then you ask some behavioral questions and you'd be like, I don't know if I want this person, right? Because they don't take into account relationship. They only looking at the skill set. So in order to be the leader that God wants us to be, it has to be relational leadership. That's why he says, I'm the good, what? Shepherd. I had a film, I don't know if I showed that film, I don't think I showed, I don't know that. I had a film where I think it was at Central Tuesday class. And I had a film, I put a film up there where the shepherd was maybe a half a mile away, or it was at a great distance. Did I show that? And he called out, and his sheep came. They was running down the hill. It took about a couple minutes. And then you see all these sheep coming because they heard his voice and they start running to him. All these sheep. How did that happen?
Relationship.
They knew his voice. In order to know his voice, you have to spend time with the sheep.
That's right.
So the relationship built up. Now you're able to lead because now there's trust. You see what I'm saying? There's trust in it. So you're able to be relational. We got some people that we deem leaders who aren't relational. We continue with after 11. I stood a little longer. Let's go to God in prayer. We'll continue the discussion. Shadows of leadership. We'll get to that. So let's go to God in prayer. Thank you for